It's 6 o'clock somewhere?
There it is.
So let's have a meeting.
Somewhere in the nation.
All right, let's have a meeting. Welcome to the regular June meeting of the Addison Township Planning Commission, 6 o'clock. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I have roll call, please?
Chair, Laura Smith.
Here.
Vice Chair, Jay Lord.
Here.
Secretary Benz here. Linda Garrett.
Present.
Jay Malaya.
Here.
Chuck Sargent.
Here.
Joe Schnurr.
Here.
Full board, thank you very much. Our announcements or correspondence? Anyone on the board have anything of interest that we need to know before we tie into the meeting?
Mention this. Okay.
Hearing no one speak, we will continue on the order of business. First, I need an approval of the agenda.
So move.
Have a motion,
Seconded.
have a second, that we proceed as printed. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We will proceed. First item on the agenda is approval of the May 14th, 2019 meeting minutes. I will start out by saying what I hope most of you know. There was a error in a word in one of the, I don't know what page it was, I think most of you know about it. The item read measure, and the proper word was to be mentor. So the minute that you have, they should be changed to that, and then we should act on that accordingly.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
Second.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second that we approve the minutes as presented with the one word change. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. They become a matter of record as stated. Next item on the agenda is suburban estate setback, 50-foot to 30-foot item or discussion. Mr. Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A public hearing was held on May 14 for the public with regard to this matter. The options before us is to leave the matter as it's currently administered with the 50 and 100 dimensions in the SE district, or to recommend a change to the Township Board to reduce those dimensions to 30 feet and 60 feet.
Period.
Once a motion is on the floor, there will be something to discuss.
So to proceed with the meeting and be constructive and whatever, we need a motion, and then we can discuss that motion and
That would be helpful.
go from there. All right, board, you heard the gentleman's request. I so request also.
So the options would leave it as is or recommend it change to 30 and 60.
Mr. Chairman, by motion, no action is required.
I'll second that one.
I have a motion and a second that no motion is required.
No action is required.
I would like the opportunity to speak, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
That would be discussion under the motion. Yes, ma'am.
I think the current zoning ordinance requires that a 10-acre and a 5-acre parcel side yard be one side at least 30 feet. In discussing side yard minimums, we typically see smaller setbacks on smaller parcels and larger setbacks on larger parcels. So our schedule of regulations for least side yard setbacks in residential reads 30, 30, 30, 15, 15, and 15. I think 50-foot setback it's not appropriate to require a more restrictive or larger 50-foot setback for a 3-acre parcel than a 10 or 15-acre parcel. The larger district in Ag and RE would need to be changed to 50 because then you have 30, 30, 50, and then down to 15. If you keep in mind that a 2-acre parcel, the side setback is 15, you've got 30, 50, and 15. I mean, it's not very consistent. I think that if we're going to look at having a more restrictive setback, that we should discuss having a larger setback in the 10-acre and the 5-acre pieces. I think adopting a 50-foot side yard setback would cause structures built at 30 to be non-conforming, and that's not an action that we take lightly to cause non-conformity. So I think we should really recommend to the board that the side yard be 30 feet, or if we want to see 50, that we should be looking at the larger parcels to be 50 as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
My thoughts.
We have a motion and a second. Mrs. Zarden, you threw me for a loop. Could I hear that motion again, or what your motion is?
My motion?
Yes.
Yes, I think that if no action is taken on this matter, the current interpretation continues. It is my understanding that text in an ordinance prevails graphic, or in this case, codification. Therefore, this commission taking no action, the current interpretation of 50 feet setback one side, 100 feet setback two sides total will continue, and the codification then will be changed to be interpreted the same as the text.
And that's why I seconded it. That was what I understood you meant.
Tell me that in layman's language. Will the new ordinance read 30-foot setback or 50?
50.
So
That is the current interpretation.
that's the current interpretation. If your motion were approved, what would the setback be?
50.
Thank you.
And the codification would be changed to read 50 in lieu of the current 30. The error existing in that codification would be corrected.
Am I correct, Linda, that you spoke in opposing that footage, et cetera?
You're correct. I think that if this board commission believes that it should be 50 feet, that we should be discussing the 10-acre and the 5-acre parcels at 50 feet as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it pointed
Sir.
out that the issue of suburban estates only,
Your motion.
with respect. Yes,
We're just the one item, not all three, right?
correct.
Okay. Further discussion from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Please,
at
Gene.
this point here, I have to agree with Linda here. I think the mistake that was made in the codification of it was, instead of it being changed to 30 feet, there was a mistake made and it was left at 50. I think the township at the time tried to get everything pretty much the same. And when you look at the numbers of it, I mean, to me, if you take a regular 3-acre parcel, you need 300 feet of frontage. If you have 50-foot side yard setbacks, you're taking a third of a person's piece of property. And you're losing a third of your lot size. If you consider the 50-foot setbacks on the side, 60 foot on the front, 50 foot in the back, by the time you're finished with this, you lose like 65,000 square feet of property, which approximately is 1.5 acres of property. So out of a 3-acre piece of property, you're losing 1.5 acres of property. And I just think that's, I think that's a taking of property. If a person comes here when they're splitting property, and everybody knows that, if you have a requirement that states that when you sell that piece of property, I don't have a problem with it, because a person knows at the time he's buying that property, but that he's got those 50-foot setbacks. if it's not done by the person who's selling that property at the time, I don't personally feel that I can take, an acre and a half of a person's property, on this board. I can't vote for that. So I couldn't vote for the 50-foot setbacks. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you, Gene. Someone else on the board? Mr. Maleta?
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
in follow-up to Commissioner Jean's comment, I recall that the footprint of a residence or primary structure on that property, 3 acres, is 15%. Accessory buildings can be placed on the property by variance if that structure is outside, inland from the side, front, rear setbacks. So I don't see an issue with that, and it's not taking the property away. It's really protecting the property in a rural setting in accordance with the master plan. My view.
Thank you, sir. Back to you, Mr. Maleta.
I've been struggling on this one all the way along. And I'm new here, so I've got to ask.
Go ahead.
This was just started as a typo. It was transferred from one document to another, then the
Yeah, they
language got
lost it.
changed.
Somehow, the one zoning district didn't get changed to 30. The other ones were 50, they went to 30. And one of them was a typo and it didn't. So because it's more restrictive, the township's been enforcing the 50-foot since it was discovered. But I guess my concern is nonconformities that would be created by changing it to 50. I know there's some people that are in favor of larger setbacks, and I mean, just to have one in the middle be more restrictive than anything else is that issue.
That satisfy you, sir?
It does, thank you.
Madam?
I agree with the 50.
Okay. Joe?
It's going to be a tight vote. I agree with the 50 also.
Anybody else on the board care to discuss before we vote? So we do have a motion. It is seconded. I believe in layman's language, if we vote yes, the 50-foot stands. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
And if you vote no, the 50-foot does not stand. So yes means 50 feet. And no means it'll go to 30. Or we'll recommend 30, how's that?
It's a recommendation to the board,
That's
and
correct.
I just want everyone to know that I'll be abstaining from voting, and we'll vote on this matter with the board.
Then are we ready to vote, board? Roll call vote, madam.
Lawrence Smith,
No.
Vice Chair Jean Lewert,
No.
Secretary Benz, yes. Linda Garrick,
Abstain.
She can vote.
oh, I'm sorry, Jean Malaya,
No.
pardon,
No.
Chuck Sargent,
Yes.
Joe Schnur.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what you do now.
There's an absence of majority, it's a tie vote. I believe, the Secretary confirmed that, 3-3 and 1 abstention.
That's what I heard.
Therefore, there is no motion on the floor.
Just,
Period. That's,
Correct.
so we just start all over.
Well, you can entertain another motion,
Yes, I did.
but at this moment, the ordinance will continue to be administered
As
as
is.
it has been, absent any other recommendation.
doesn't it just go up to the board?
Would we forward that to the board?
No.
Because we
No.
really
Ran
made a motion and voted and we didn't do anything, so we're not
Okay.
doing anything.
All right.
So if we're gonna recommend to the board, we have to make another motion.
to make this official, should we make another motion for the
Yes.
30 feet?
Yes.
Just-
Only if a majority, well, you can make the motion and see if that gets majority support or not.
So it'd be another vote too. We need a motion and a second and a vote.
Correct.
That's correct.
I make a motion, we make it 30 feet. Just
So I have a motion by Gene
To recommend it to be 30.
to recommend
recommend 30
30
feet.
feet to the township board. Do I have a second?
Right here.
So I have a motion and a second. Motion by Gene, second by Malaya. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Please.
When a person has a small lot, they really are looking for space from the next lot. They already know they got a small lot. So I think that should be 30 feet if you buy a small lot. If you buy a larger lot, I think you should be able to get 50 feet away from somebody because that's why you bought the big piece of property.
Mr. Chair.
Sir.
Joe, if a person, the way I understand it, if a person splits property and he puts a deed restriction in there that you have a 50-foot setback on the property that he's selling, then you have to abide by those rules.
Yes.
Okay. Otherwise, the township's changing, we're changing the rules, or the township's changing the rules to make it 30 feet. But we can't, as my understanding is, we can't say if you got a small lot, you can have 30 feet, if you got a big lot, you got 50. The only way you could have 50 feet is if it's in a deed restriction. Is that correct, Brandon, or is that?
Generally speaking, we treat all properties within this single zoning district in the same
It's the
manner.
same setbacks.
So if you have a 10-acre parcel, you have a 30-foot side yard setback. If you have a 5-acre parcel, you have a 30-foot side yard setback. If you have a 3-acre parcel, you're suggesting a 50-foot side setback.
No, I'm not. I'm saying if you got three
3-acre?
3 acres, 50 foot is pretty bad for them.
Well, that's what you're agreeing to.
Yeah, I'm agreeing to that. I say, but if you have more than 3 acres, you might want to get some privacy, and that means on both sides. So you don't want to watch out somebody looking out the window at you.
Well, that's what my point was. If those are 30, and then you have a smaller one and it's 50, and then you go to 2 acres and it's only 15.
15.
This makes no sense to me. Our ordinance is all over the place.
I don't
It's
think
not-
you might not have voted what you thought you voted, Joe, but I'm happy to correct whatever. What you just said to her makes me think you didn't vote your mind. As he contemplates that, the other thing I haven't heard considered is, we'll talk about utopia. You have a piece of property regardless of what zoning it is. You talked about side back, setback, front back, You're talking about ideal. Ideally, we just 50 feet or 30 feet, and then everything's right in the middle and nothing, there's no valleys, there's no slopes, there's no trees, there's no ponds, there's no nothing. I think the bigger the restriction, the lesser chance of putting a building or a structure or something is where you want it. Now, that's just that's my observation. That has not been talked about or looked into, in my opinion.
No, you're right. I agree with you on that.
Well, what I
Mr.
was
Chair.
trying to say is that if you have a small lot, a 3-acre lot, you're not looking for a lot of distance on the side. So to have 30 is fine. If you get a larger lot, you block that because you want space between you and the next person. That's what I thought I was voting for. I don't know where we are now. I'm confused.
Would you care to explain that to Mr. Bowman? I think.
Where we stand right now is the ordinance will be administered at 50 and 100.
Right.
For everybody, right?
Correct.
No.
In this,
No,
in the
just suburban farm.
states,
In the-
zoning district only.
Everyone in
And
the
the 3
suburban
acres.
states.
Okay.
No, and isn't it just for 10 acres?
And
10 acres is
we
not the
will be
50, and the 3
considering
acres
a
have
motion
lesser?
if it's made for a recommendation other than that.
Right.
But the deliberation is solely by the planning commission at this point, the public hearing having been closed.
A 10-acre parcel is currently at 30 feet side.
No, it's 50.
No, it's 30. It depends on what it's zoned, actually.
It's the essay, we're only here to discuss the suburban estates. Okay, if you look at, let's just look at suburban estates, because this is where it all is about,
Mr.
right?
Chairman, I would exhort you to limit public comment to the
Oh,
public
I'm
comment
sorry.
portion of the
I'm
hearing.
sorry, but-
Held the public hearing and closed it at a
Yes.
further occasion.
Thank you. If you'll refrain, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. The new motion would mean that the zoning recommendation to the township board would be 30 feet on all of the 3 large, I'm sorry, we're only voting on one of them. 2 of them have 30 feet, one has 50 feet, and the new motion says we will recommend 30 feet to the township board, so it becomes consistent 30, 30, 30.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think with respect, the introduction of other parcels is confusing. And the focus of this discussion is suburban estates district only.
That's why I refrain my statement.
Yes, sir. And I think that by confusing the issue, it has created some smog in one or more commissioners. And I think we should focus on the suburban estates issue only. And if there is concern about the other districts, then that is a concern to be discussed at a different meeting.
I agree, but I think comparison is fair.
I'm sorry?
I say I agree with your comment, but comparison is also fair. Thank you for your comment. Ready to vote again? This time, if we vote yes, it will be to recommend to the Addison Township Board that the setback on this particular zoning will be 30 feet on the sides.
That's a yes vote?
A yes puts it to 30 feet. Any more questions?
Chair Lawrence Smith,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jean Lord,
Yes.
Secretary Benz, no. Jean Malaya,
Yes.
Chuck Sargent,
No.
Joe Schneer.
No.
I think we have, Mr. Chairman, exhausted all options for this evening.
It would appear that way, sir. So if we have exhausted all options, we go to the next thing on the agenda?
Yes.
Thank you, board members, for discussing and considering and voting. Next item on the agenda is public forum.
Oh, you ready for me? Okay.
If you're going to be the public
When,
forum.
when this all started, if you look at suburban estates and you look at it only, there are 3 acres, there's 10 acres, and what else is there? Maybe a 5 acre? 5 acre and 3 acres have different side setbacks than 10 acres. Now, like I said a million times, I'm on a 10 acre, and I'm on a pie-shaped thing, and acreage, and so is my neighbor who wanted to build 50 feet from the property line. You know, so I just think if you leave it the same, Mr. Bowman, you've been here how many years? With the township?
At least a decade.
Okay, and you haven't had one complaint?
A complaint would not come to me.
Well, you had, at the first meeting, you had said that it has never come up.
I'm not aware of it, that doesn't mean it hasn't occurred. Any complaints would go to the ordinance officer, not the planner.
Okay. It's my understanding nobody's complained. Everybody's happy. Most of the property's already developed, and it's been operating to the 10 acres at least where I'm at, has all been 50 feet. No one's complained about it. No one's even asked for a variance, and everybody's very happy. And it just goes back to my neighbor who doesn't want, he has 10 acres too, but it's a little more expensive to maybe put it on the other side or to move it over here, maybe the electricity will be a little more, and he'd have to look at it more than me, right? So I just think we're doing a lot of the same thing over and over again, and it really doesn't need to be done. 10 acres? I've been out here 40 years. It's been 50 feet. Nobody even has tried. Building department came out to my house. They were very confident. I even have a barn, and it's far from my house, but it's well over 50 feet from the property line. And you can't think of these pieces of property as squares because they're not. They're pie-shaped. And where he wants to put it, it's right in my front yard view. I mean, he put up a swimming pool. I never even knew he put it in the ground because I couldn't see him. Now he's cleared all these trees. I can see a swimming pool in his house. I see him driving up and down the driveway. I see my other neighbor 10 acres away driving up and down. And when he puts the structure in, he told me he's going to be driving a tree line. So I get to listen to his four-wheeler, and his trucks, and his tractors, and all this stuff. I just think it's just a very poor way. If he didn't like where he's at with 50 feet, he could get a variance. He has plenty of property. I'm sorry. I don't know how to shut this off. I can't talk by. He has plenty of. He has the whole other side of his house. He has so much property that goes back from his house. He uses it as a a driving range. He uses it as a driving range. That's how much property he has.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sir? Your name?
Chuck Meininger, I was at the previous meeting, and I still hold that 50 feet minimum side setback should be continued. And I live in a 3-acre property, not a 10-acre property. But we had no problems with that in our association, and I think with 50 feet minimum should be maintained for the side setback.
Thank you.
Chuck, do you speak for the whole your whole association? You don't? Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Hearing none, commissioners' reports. The ZBA has no meeting this month and everything is, nothing pending, how's that? Anybody else on the board with a report? Hearing none? I'm listening.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that one.
Motion and second, adjourn, any discussion?
Could you
Hearing
tell
none,
me?
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 6:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.